The very first step toward never being controlled by emotions again is developing awareness. Most people live on autopilot, letting anger, fear, jealousy, or excitement dictate their reactions without even noticing it. They feel irritated, so they lash out. They feel scared, so they avoid action. They feel jealous, so they sabotage relationships. The truth is, emotions are natural, but being unaware of them gives them power over you. Imagine emotions as waves in the ocean. You cannot stop the waves from coming, but you can learn to surf them instead of being drowned. Awareness is the surfboard that saves you. By pausing and naming what you feel, I am angry, I am anxious, I am excited, you create a gap between stimulus and response. This gap is where self-mastery is born. The more you practice this pause, the less control emotions will have over your decisions. When you learn to watch your thoughts and feelings like a neutral observer, emotions lose their ability to dominate. The moment you label an emotion, you shift it from being an unconscious reaction to a conscious experience. And once it's conscious, you can choose what to do with it. This small yet powerful practice is the foundation of emotional freedom. Without awareness, emotions are the master, and you are the servant. With awareness, you become the master and emotions become tools. So, the first DOTHICE is simple: watch your emotions, name them, and don't act until you are clear about what you're feeling. This single habit can change the entire course of your life, because once you learn to see emotions as temporary visitors, you will never again mistake them for permanent truth. Once you are aware of your emotions, the next step is detachment. Detachment does not mean ignoring or suppressing emotions. It means creating distance between you and the emotion so you are not consumed by it. When anger arises, most people identify with it completely. I am angry. But in truth, you are not anger. You are simply experiencing anger. There's a huge difference. Imagine holding a burning coal in your hand. The more tightly you grip it, the more it burns you. Detachment is the act of setting that coal down and observing it from a safe distance. You still see it, you still feel its heat, but it no longer scorches you. In practice, this means learning to breathe deeply, count to 10, or take a physical step back before reacting. These small actions buy you time to detach from the raw emotional surge and reframe the situation with clarity. For example, if someone insults you, the immediate emotional response may be rage. But if you pause and detach, you'll see that their insult says more about them than about you. Emotional detachment transforms personal attacks into mere words, disappointments into lessons, and stress into opportunities for growth. This practice allows you to act from reason, not impulse. Over time, you will notice that emotions still arise, but they no longer hijack your behavior. You become like a mountain. Storms may rage around you, but your foundation remains unshaken. To never be controlled by emotions again, you must practice this art of detachment daily. It's not about killing emotions. It's about making them powerless to dictate your choices. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools for emotional mastery. Emotions gain strength when we see situations only from one angle, usually the most negative one. A single event, like being rejected for a job, can trigger feelings of unworthiness, anger, or despair if you only see it as failure. But if you shift perspective, the same event could become a lesson, a redirection, or even an opportunity. The truth is, your mind constructs emotions based on the meaning you give to events. Change the meaning, and you change the emotion. This is why two people can face the same challenge but respond differently. One falls into depression, while the other grows stronger. Perspective is the difference. To never be controlled by emotions again, you must train yourself to ask, what else could this mean? For example, if someone criticizes you, instead of reacting with hurt, you could see it as feedback for growth, or even as proof of your progress. Because people rarely criticize mediocrity, perspective allows you to reinterpret pain as growth, setbacks as preparation, and obstacles as teachers. When you develop this skill, emotions stop dictating your reality. Instead of drowning in sadness or rage, you rise above the situation with wisdom. This doesn't mean you won't feel emotions. You will, but their control over you weakens because your mind reframes them into something useful. Perspective is the lens that transforms emotional storms into passing clouds. Train yourself to see events from multiple angles, and you'll never again be trapped by one overpowering emotional reaction. One of the simplest yet most overlooked techniques for emotional control is mastering your breathing. Science shows that emotions and breath are directly linked. When you are anxious, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. When you are angry, it becomes sharp and erratic. But here's the secret: the connection works both ways. By consciously changing your breath, you can change your emotional state. Slow, deep breathing sends signals to your brain that you are safe, calming the nervous system and reducing the intensity of emotional surges. This is why practices like meditation, yoga, and martial arts emphasize breathing techniques. They are keys to self-mastery. The next time you feel emotions rising, instead of reacting impulsively, pause and take 10 deep breaths. Inhale slowly through your nose, hold for a moment, then exhale through your mouth. You will feel your heart rate slow, your muscles relax, and your mind clear. What seemed overwhelming a minute ago becomes manageable. Breathing creates a bridge between the body and the mind, giving you control when emotions threaten to take over. Over time, this habit trains your body to respond with calm, even in stressful situations. Imagine being in a heated argument, but staying composed while others lose control. That power comes from your breath. To never be controlled by emotions again, make controlled breathing your daily practice. It requires no special tools, no external help, only awareness and consistency. The mastery of your breath is the mastery of your emotions, and ultimately, the mastery of yourself. If you want to never be controlled by emotions again, you must understand your triggers. Triggers are situations, words, or actions that spark intense emotional reactions within you. Maybe someone ignoring your message makes you furious. Maybe a certain tone of voice fills you with fear or insecurity. These triggers often come from past experiences, old wounds, or unresolved beliefs. Most people run from their triggers, but the truth is, they are teachers. Every trigger points to an area where you need healing and growth. When you are triggered, don't just ask, "Why am I angry?" Ask, "What does this reaction reveal about me?" For instance, if criticism makes you defensive, maybe you secretly doubt your worth. If being excluded makes you sad, perhaps you are attaching your happiness to external validation. By investigating triggers, you turn emotional chaos into self-discovery. The key is to observe your reactions without judgment and use them as a mirror. Over time, triggers lose their power because you are no longer reacting unconsciously. You are learning. Instead of being a victim of emotions, you become a student of them. This mindset shift is powerful. The same things that once controlled you now serve you. Each trigger becomes a stepping stone to freedom. By treating emotional pain as information rather than punishment, you transform every setback into progress. Remember, emotions can only dominate you when you refuse to understand them. Once you study them, they lose their grip. So, the next time you're triggered, smile inwardly and say, "Thank you, teacher." That single shift takes you one step closer to emotional mastery. One of the clearest signs of emotional control is the ability to respond instead of react. A reaction is automatic, impulsive, and emotion-driven. A response is deliberate, thoughtful, and value-driven. The difference between the two can change the course of your relationships, career, and inner peace. Imagine being insulted. A reaction would be to shout back, escalating conflict. A response might be to calmly address the disrespect, or even walk away, protecting your energy. The power lies in the pause. When you train yourself to pause before acting, you create space for wisdom to enter. This is where emotional intelligence outshines emotional slavery. People who are controlled by emotions always react. They are like puppets pulled by invisible strings. But people who master emotions always respond. They cut the strings and move with intention. Choosing response over reaction requires practice, but it begins with awareness. When you feel an emotional surge, ask yourself, will this reaction serve me in the long run, or is it just temporary satisfaction? Often, reactions win in the short term, but cost you peace and respect in the long term. Responses, on the other hand, may require restraint now, but reward you with dignity and strength later. This is how leaders, Stoics, and wise thinkers throughout history carried themselves. They never allowed the heat of the moment to dictate their legacy. To never be controlled by emotions again, make response your default mode. Every situation offers a choice. Will you be a slave to emotions, or will you master them with reason? The decision is always yours. Discipline is often seen as something related only to productivity, fitness, or career, but it is also the hidden foundation of emotional control. When your life lacks discipline, emotions will easily hijack you. You wake up late, rush through the day, and the smallest setback feels overwhelming. You procrastinate, then guilt and anxiety creep in, controlling your thoughts. But when you live with discipline, emotions no longer dictate your behavior. You act according to principle, not feeling. For example, a disciplined person may not feel like exercising, but they do it anyway, and that discipline prevents laziness, regret, and self-loathing from taking over. Similarly, in conversations, discipline allows you to remain calm, even when provoked, because you are trained not to surrender to every emotional impulse. Discipline is like a strong fence around your mind. Without it, emotions invade and rule. With it, emotions become guests, not masters. Developing discipline does not mean suppressing joy or spontaneity. It means creating consistent habits that ground you. A morning routine, regular meditation, daily goals, all of these act as anchors that keep emotions from tossing you around. In fact, many ancient philosophies, from Stoicism to Zen, emphasized discipline as the gateway to freedom. They understood that true liberty comes not from doing whatever you feel in the moment, but from mastering yourself so deeply that no feeling can control your choices. To never be controlled by emotions again, build discipline like a muscle. Each small act of self-control compounds into unshakable stability, and soon you will find that emotions no longer pull you off course. They simply pass through while you stay rooted. One of the biggest traps people fall into is dwelling endlessly on emotions. They replay what happened, why they feel this way, and what it might mean, until the emotion consumes them completely. But emotions are not problems to be solved. They are signals to be acknowledged and then transcended through action. The most powerful way to stop emotions from controlling you is to shift your focus from how you feel to what you can do. For instance, if you feel anxious about a presentation, don't sit in your room overthinking. Take action, practice your speech, prepare your slides, and face the challenge. The more action you take, the less power emotions have. Action grounds you in reality, while overthinking amplifies emotional noise. This is why athletes train hard, soldiers drill relentlessly, and entrepreneurs keep building despite fear. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but movement despite it. The same applies in daily life. If sadness grips you, instead of sinking deeper, move your body, go for a walk, call a friend, or start a project. When you focus on action, emotions no longer define you. They become fuel for progress. This shift also teaches your brain that emotions are temporary and manageable, not dictators of your life. The more you practice choosing action over emotional paralysis, the stronger you become. Eventually, emotions will still arise, but your instinct will be to act constructively, not wallow destructively. To never be controlled by emotions again. Remember this rule: feelings may visit, but actions decide your destiny. Let action, not emotion, define who you are. The words you speak to yourself shape the emotions you feel. If your inner voice is harsh, critical, or fearful, your emotions will naturally follow that direction. For example, constantly telling yourself, "I'm not good enough," will create emotions of insecurity and anxiety, even if reality doesn't support that belief. On the other hand, affirming, "I am learning, I am improving," builds confidence and calms. Self-talk is like the background music of your mind. It sets the tone for everything you feel. Most people are unaware of how negative and destructive their self-talk is, and because of that, their emotions spiral out of control. The good news is that you can reprogram this inner voice by becoming intentional. Start by observing yourself. Talk without judgment. Notice the phrases you repeat when you're stressed, angry, or sad. Then, consciously replace them with empowering alternatives. If you say, "This is too much for me," shift it to, "This is challenging, but I can handle it step by step." This small shift changes the emotional charge completely. Over time, new patterns of thought reshape emotional responses. Neuroscience confirms that your brain builds pathways based on repetition. So the more you practice positive self-talk, the more natural it becomes. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or living in denial. It means training your inner dialogue to support growth instead of sabotage. When your self-talk becomes constructive, emotions lose their grip. Because you no longer feed them with negativity, you become your own coach instead of your own enemy. To never be controlled by emotions again, master the language you use with yourself, because your inner voice is the most powerful influence on your emotional state. One of the paradoxes of emotional control is that the more you resist emotions, the stronger they become. Trying to suppress anger often makes it explode later. Fighting sadness can deepen it. Resisting anxiety can make it unbearable. The secret is acceptance, not resignation, but acknowledgement. Acceptance means allowing yourself to feel emotions without judgment and without attaching to them. For example, when anger arises, instead of saying, "I shouldn't feel this way," you can say, "I notice that I feel anger right now." This simple acceptance removes the shame and resistance that intensify emotions. It gives emotions space to arise and fade naturally, like waves on the shore. Think of it this way: emotions are like children tugging at your sleeve. If you ignore them, they scream louder. If you acknowledge them, they quiet down because they've been hurt. Acceptance also prevents the buildup of emotional energy that often explodes in unhealthy ways. Outbursts, addictions, or destructive behaviors. Instead, emotions move through you without leaving scars. Over time, acceptance builds resilience. You stop fearing emotions because you know you can sit with them without being consumed. This practice turns emotions into temporary experiences rather than permanent prisons. The key is to remember that acceptance does not equal passivity. You can accept your fear while still acting with courage. You can accept your sadness while still pursuing joy. Acceptance removes the struggle, leaving you free to choose your response. To never be controlled by emotions again, embrace acceptance as a daily practice. Let emotions pass through you like clouds across the sky, and they will lose their power to dominate your life. Journaling is one of the most effective tools to break free from emotional control. Not emotions are stuck in your head. They feel overwhelming and endless. But the moment you put them on paper, they lose much of their power. Writing down what you feel gives structure to the chaos inside your mind. For instance, if you're consumed by anger, journaling allows you to explore the cause. What exactly triggered this? Why does it matter so much to me? What belief is fueling this anger? As you answer these questions, patterns begin to emerge. You may discover that many of your emotional reactions are rooted in recurring fears. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. Journaling helps you shine light on these hidden fears, making them easier to address. Moreover, it creates emotional distance. Reading your own words on a page feels like looking at someone else's story, which allows you to view your emotions with greater objectivity. Journaling also tracks your progress. Over weeks and months, you'll notice that emotions which once dominated you now trigger less intensity. This builds confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Many people underestimate journaling because it seems simple, but its power lies in consistency. A few minutes each day can transform your relationship with emotions. Instead of being trapped in mental loops, you release feelings onto the page, making space for clarity and rational thought. To never be controlled by emotions again, make journaling your secret weapon. It turns raw emotion into wisdom and gives you a mirror to your own growth. Another key to emotional mastery is learning to set and enforce boundaries. Many people allow others to dictate how they feel because they lack clear limits. They say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate disrespect, and they exhaust themselves trying to please everyone. The result is resentment, frustration, and emotional chaos. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are filters that protect your peace. For example, deciding not to answer work messages after a certain hour is a boundary that prevents burnout. Refusing to engage with people who constantly spread negativity is a boundary that safeguards your mental health. The truth is, without boundaries, you become a sponge for other people's emotions, carrying stress and anger that don't even belong to you. By creating boundaries, you take back control of your energy. This also teaches others how to treat you. People will only respect your limits if you consistently enforce them. At first, setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable, especially if you fear conflict. But with practice, it becomes liberating. You realize that saying no to others is saying yes to your own well-being. Boundaries are acts of self-respect and self-respect is the foundation of emotional stability. When your time, space, and energy are protected, emotions no longer run wild because you are no longer at the mercy of external demands. To never be controlled by emotions again, establish boundaries in every area of your life. Protect your energy like a treasure, because it is. And remember, those who truly value you will honor your boundaries, not test them. Emotions often overwhelm people because they have not trained themselves to face challenges with resilience. Resilience is the ability to bend without breaking, to endure hardship without being destroyed by it. Life will always bring pain, loss, failure, and uncertainty. You cannot avoid these experiences, but you can choose how you face them. Those who lack resilience crumble at the first sign of struggle, drowning in despair or anger. But those who cultivate resilience remain steady, because they have learned that emotions are temporary and challenges are opportunities in disguise. Building resilience requires embracing discomfort instead of running from it. For example, facing rejection teaches you to detach your worth from external validation. Losing something valuable teaches you the impermanence of life, which makes you appreciate the present. Failure teaches you persistence and humility. Each challenge strengthens your emotional muscles, much like lifting weights strengthens the body. Over time, emotions lose their ability to control you, because you know you have survived storms before and can survive them again. Resilience also shifts your focus from "why me?" to "what can I learn?" This small shift transforms suffering into growth and keeps you grounded when emotions threaten to drown you. To never be controlled by emotions again, view adversity as training. Every hardship is a classroom, every setback a teacher, Every pain a lesson in strength. With resilience, emotions no longer dominate. You do. One of the deepest mistakes people make is confusing emotions with identity. They say, I am angry, I am sad, I am anxious, as though the emotion defines who they are. But you are not your emotions. You are the observer experiencing them. The moment you attach your identity to emotions, you give them complete power. Instead, learn to refrain. Don't say, I am angry, but I notice anger within me. Don't say, I am anxious, but I feel anxiety passing through me. This subtle change is powerful because it reminds you that emotions are temporary states, not permanent qualities. Just like clouds move across the sky, emotions move across the mind. Your identity is the sky itself, vast, unchanging, stable, while emotions are passing weather patterns. By practicing this detachment, you reduce the intensity of emotional storms. For example, instead of drowning in sadness, you can say, I see sadness visiting me today, but it is not me. That recognition prevents emotions from controlling your actions and choices. Over time, this practice strengthens your inner sense of self. You begin to see that your true essence, your values, your character, your awareness, is untouched by the ups and downs of emotions. This perspective is liberating. It means you can feel deeply without being enslaved by those feelings. To never be controlled by emotions again, stop identifying with them. You are not your anger, your fear, or your sadness. You are the one who sees them come and go. One of the biggest reasons people are controlled by emotions is their addiction to instant gratification. The desire for immediate pleasure, comfort, or validation often overrides rational decision-making. You feel stressed, so you binge on junk food. You feel lonely, so you chase toxic relationships. You feel insecure, so you spend money on things you don't need. In every case, emotions push you toward short-term relief at the cost of long-term well-being. The antidote to this trap is delayed gratification. The discipline to resist temporary impulses in order to achieve greater rewards later. This principle is not just about money or success. It is about emotional freedom. When you learn to delay gratification, you prove to yourself that emotions cannot control your choices. For example, instead of reacting to anger by yelling, you wait, calm down, and then speak thoughtfully, delaying the release of emotion for a better outcome. Instead of seeking comfort in unhealthy ways, you choose to sit with discomfort and allow it to pass naturally. Studies show that people who master delayed gratification, like in the famous marshmallow test, end up happier, healthier, and more successful in life. Why? Because they refuse to let fleeting emotions dictate their destiny. Every time you resist the urge to give in to temporary emotions, you strengthen your inner willpower. Over time, this becomes second nature, and emotions lose their grip on you. To never be controlled by emotions again, embrace the art of waiting. Choose long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. The moment you master delayed gratification, you master yourself. Your environment plays a huge role in how well you manage emotions. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, argue, or live in drama, you will find yourself reacting emotionally all the time. Chaos breeds chaos. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with calm, disciplined, and emotionally intelligent people. Their stability will influence you. Humans are social creatures. We absorb the energy, habits, and emotional patterns of those around us. If you are serious about never being controlled by emotions again, you must consciously choose your environment. This doesn't mean cutting everyone off, but it does mean limiting exposure to toxic influences and increasing exposure to people and places that promote peace. Even your physical environment matters. A cluttered, noisy space can create stress and irritation, while an organized, peaceful space encourages calmness. The media you consume also affects your emotions. Constant exposure to negative news, heated debates, or toxic social media can heighten fear and anger, while uplifting books, podcasts, or meditations can instill strength and clarity. The key is intentional design. Don't leave your emotional environment to chance. Build it to support your highest self. By surrounding yourself with calm instead of chaos, you reduce unnecessary emotional triggers and create a foundation of peace. Over time, this stability allows you to face life's challenges with clarity instead of reactivity. To never be controlled by emotions again, curate your surroundings carefully. What you allow around you will either strengthen your control or sabotage it. Choose wisely, because your environment is shaping your emotions every single day. A major reason emotions control people is because they are rarely present in the moment. Most of the time, the mind is either stuck in the past, replaying regrets and pain, or racing into the future, imagining worries and fears. Both create emotional storms that aren't even rooted in reality. Mindfulness is the practice of bringing your attention back to the present moment, where emotions lose much of their destructive power. When you focus on what is happening right now, your breath, your surroundings, your body, you realize that most emotions are exaggerated responses to thoughts, not facts. For example, anxiety about an upcoming meeting is not about the present moment. It is about a future scenario your mind is creating. By grounding yourself in the now, the anxiety begins to fade. Mindfulness also helps you observe emotions without judgment, treating them as passing experiences instead of permanent truths. This practice rewires your brain to remain calm, even in stressful situations. You stop being dragged by the what-ifs of tomorrow or the should-haves of yesterday, and instead, you act with clarity in the here and now. Simple practices like mindful breathing, body scans, or even paying attention to small daily activities, like drinking tea or walking, train your mind to stay present. Over time, mindfulness becomes a shield against emotional control. The storms may still come, but they no longer sweep you away, because you are anchored in the present. To never be controlled by emotions again, cultivate mindful presence. The present moment is your safe ground, where emotions lose their power and you regain your freedom. Another powerful way to stop being controlled by emotions is to anchor yourself in your values. Emotions fluctuate constantly, but values remain steady. If you live based on how you feel, your life will be unstable. One day you're motivated, the next you're discouraged. One day you're kind, the next you're angry. But if you live based on values, emotions can rise and fall without changing your direction. For example, if honesty is one of your core values, you will tell the truth. even when fear or shame tempts you to lie. If discipline is a value, you will stay committed to your goals, even when laziness or doubt whispers otherwise. Values act like a compass, guiding your actions regardless of emotional turbulence. To build this foundation, take time to clearly define your values. Ask yourself, what principles do I want to live by no matter what I feel? Once identified, write them down, reflect on them, and let them guide your choices. When emotions arise, measure your response against your values. Does this align with who I want to be? This question alone can stop destructive emotional reactions in their tracks. Anchoring yourself in values also strengthens your identity. You no longer say, "I am what I feel," but "I am what I stand for." That clarity prevents emotions from derailing you. To never be controlled by emotions again, live from values, not moods. Emotions are fleeting visitors, but values are the pillars that hold your life steady. One of the most liberating ways to stop being controlled by emotions is to transform your pain into purpose. Everyone experiences hurt, betrayal, loss, and disappointment, but not everyone uses those experiences to grow. For many, pain becomes a prison, locking them into cycles of anger, sadness, or resentment. But for the wise, pain becomes fuel, guiding them towards strength and meaning. Think of great leaders, creators, or thinkers. Many of them endured immense suffering, yet instead of letting emotions destroy them, they turned that pain into art, innovation, service, or wisdom. The same is possible for you. When emotions like grief or anger overwhelm you, ask, how can I use this experience to become stronger or help others? That question shifts your mindset from victimhood to empowerment. For instance, heartbreak can teach you compassion, failure can ignite resilience, and rejection can sharpen your focus. Pain, when transformed, becomes a teacher that no comfort could ever provide. This does not mean denying your emotions. It means channeling them into something greater than yourself. Over time, this habit rewires your relationship with suffering. Instead of being trapped by emotions, you see them as raw energy waiting to be directed. Pain loses its power to control you because you are no longer running from it. You are using it. To never be controlled by emotions again, commit to transforming pain into purpose. Let every wound become wisdom, every struggle become strength, and every emotion become fuel for your highest self. The ultimate key to never being controlled by emotions is to fully embrace the truth that you are the master, not the slave. Emotions are part of being human, but they were never meant to be in charge of your life. They are signals, not commands. Yet most people treat emotions as orders they must obey. Anger says, shout. Fear says, hide. Sadness says, quit. And they comply without question. Mastery means reversing this dynamic. It means acknowledging emotions, listening to what they have to say, and then deciding with reason, values, and wisdom whether to act on them or not. True freedom is not the absence of emotions, but the ability to rise above them. This mastery requires continuous practice, awareness, detachment, perspective, breathing, resilience, values, and all the steps discussed throughout this essay. Each principle strengthens your ability to hold the reins of your mind while emotions run in the background. Imagine emotions as wild horses. If you let them run free, they drag you into chaos. But if you hold the reins, you direct their power toward your goals. Mastery doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, you will notice a transformation. Instead of saying, "I couldn't help it, I was emotional," you will say, "I felt it, but I chose my response." That is real strength. To never be controlled by emotions again. Remember this final truth: emotions are guests, but you are the host. Treat them with awareness, but never let them rule your house. The choice has always been yours. Thank you for watching this video.